Greetings to our listeners. Today we will listen to the confession of Scarlett, who had a fling with her husband's friend Matthew. Join us as Scarlett shares her story. Hello. I am 32 years old, married woman. I want to share with you my marital problems. Disloyalty is bad. No one wishes to be cheated on. But my situation is slightly different. I'm convinced that if you were in my place, you would also cheat. Never say never. If you had a husband like mine, you would also want to betray him? I cheated on my husband with his best friend. Matthew is also married, but we love each other. I have a child with my husband. I got married to him because he was a good family man, someone to be safe around. But his introverted personality that attracted me initially was starting to annoy me. He would stay at home all day long. We would barely go anywhere. Life with him was turning into a nightmare. He had developed psychological problems as well. He had an irrational fear of strangers and preferred to avoid people at all costs. He was turning into a coward. I preferred a brave man, not a coward like him. His relationship with money was also not making me happy. He was extremely stingy. He kept saving money, but when it comes to spending money, he would spend it on completely useless things. He would make a scene every time I went to a beauty salon. When I complained about these to my mother-in-law, she told me things would get better. He is a good man and takes care of you, she told me. Of course, she was taking her son's side. Living with my husband, I had forgotten how to be a woman. I was a romantic person. I definitely didn't want my marriage to be like this. My husband didn't have many friends. He had a close friend, Matthew, who was living nearby. Matthew was also not getting along with his wife, who would shout and curse him a lot. He visited our house quite often. Matthew was a good man, had a great personality, the exact opposite of my husband. How did they become friends? I couldn't find the answer to this question. Matthew was exactly the type of man I would want in my life. I would always try to chat with him whenever he came over. He would tell me about his wife, about the emotional damage and suffering she had caused in his life. He would tell me that I was the opposite of his wife, that I made him feel better and alive. Matthew would always come to us when he had something going on with his wife. We would joke around a lot. I would make jokes about him and his wife. He would laugh. I compared his wife to my husband. Both were cold and emotionless. Matthew and I would make a great couple. As if we're made for each other. Matthew's wife and my husband were both idiots who couldn't satisfy their spouse, both emotionally and physically. My husband was completely lazy. He barely went to work. I would wake him up in the mornings by force. He was completely useless. Every night I would ask myself why I married this loser and then fall asleep without being able to find any answers. This was repeated every day. After a while, my life started changing. It was all because of Matthew. I had found the man who took care of me. He would spend money on me and we were having great time together. I was grateful for having him in my life. He was like a husband to me. He should have been my real husband. I was cheating on my husband. Matthew helped fill the void left by my husband. My affair with Matthew was quite unplanned. It had started when we were having a friendly, cordial conversation in my house. One day Matthew visited us while my husband was at work. I realized he had had an argument with his wife and was upset because of that. I invited him in. I offered him coffee. We ended up having deep conversation. After a while, our conversation became focused on intimate topics. He told me his wife was not satisfying him in bed and there was no spark between them. I also told him about the problems with my husband. I told him my husband was boring and dull. But Matthew already knew these about his close friend. We chatted for hours, sharing our deepest concerns with each other. I put my head on his knee and he started to caress my hair. My husband had never caressed my hair. Matthew and I both had the same problem: our spouses were not treating us right. Our spouses don't deserve us, I told him. He sighed deeply and said a yes, continuing to caress my hair. And I liked it very much. I got up and hugged him and started crying. He wiped my tears and said, "Don't cry." It was very romantic. At that moment I was thinking of no one but Matthew, neither my child nor my husband. We started having an affair that day. I was now attached to him. He left before my husband arrived home. We started talking every day. He was like my husband now. Matthew and I have been together for about 3 years now. No one knows about our forbidden relationship with him. I want to see him every time I get the chance. Since my child has grown up now, we no longer meet at home. We find hotels to get together. Occasional getaways are very good for me. Now I spend money on my makeup and beauty products. Matthew really loves me and we are happy together. I wish our affair wasn't forbidden and everyone knew about it, but unfortunately no one knows about it. I can't wait to see the day when Matthew and I don't have to hide anymore. I want the whole world know about our love,